to set the container and the framework of what we're going to go through. As you can see here on the screen, 6 universal laws of copywriting. The way that I've structured this and the way that we're going to set it up is I'm going to walk you through the 6 different principles, what they are, and I'm going to walk you through step by step in real time how I think about them and how they work. So this isn't just a big block of text. We're going to go through that together. At the end of that, after we've covered the 6, if you have any questions, ask them then. And then we're going to go into some ad copy, into some YouTube copy, and I'm going to show you the process of how I write them. And then if you have an asset that you want optimized or worked through, I'll go through one. Okay, so that's the structure that we're going to use. So as I said, this is a walkthrough how I write copy. So I want you to forget about all the fancy frameworks, formulas, tactics like PASPA, ADA, just anything that you've heard from like expert copywriters before, because they are so surface level that they really don't matter and they don't work. And the reason for that is that they'll say, use PASPA, talk about the problem, agitate the problem, solve it, prove it, and then give a call to action. And you'll go, yeah, okay, this is the problem. But it doesn't go into how you actually write that problem out. So knowing the problem, knowing you need to agitate it, knowing you need to solve it does nothing, because it's not telling you how to actually apply it. How is it that you go about expressing and communicating the problem? How do you frame it? How do you go about actually agitating the problem in a way that elicits the right emotions that we're looking to evoke? How do you actually frame the solution and talk about it? Like, they're the things that they don't tell you. So the frameworks are great as a container, but these universal principles are the depth. This is where so much of the copy comes from, but they're higher level concepts. So they're a little bit more abstract and harder to understand, but once you understand them, the rest of the process becomes easier, because the act of actually writing copy is so simple. It really is. It's answering these sort of 6 questions and these 6 principles, which is where the work is done, so that when you go to actually write, it just flows and it's very, very, very simple and straightforward. Okay? So the first principle is answering these 3 questions. This is where I always start. I ask myself, who is it that I'm writing to with this single piece of copy? So if it's an ad, I'm thinking about that single ad. If it's a description, I'm thinking about that single description. If it's an Instagram reel, I'm thinking about that one Instagram reel. Who is this one piece of copy for? And in it, what am I trying to say? And then how am I trying to say it? So when I think about who am I writing to, this is where we write to one single person. So this is where this rule of one inside of this context starts to form. So this is where we start to bring in the laws of magnetism, the laws of attraction, the laws of entanglement, because we're writing to that one single person. So it's going to speak to everyone that's like them, because we're so hyper-focused in the message. The thing with copy and the thing with messaging is, if we try and communicate to a broad audience, we end up connecting and speaking to no one. It's filtered down. People hear the message and it just bounces off and goes elsewhere, because we haven't created something strong enough, something polarizing enough that it gets their attention. And that's what writing to one single person does. And when I'm thinking through this and I'm thinking, who is it that I'm actually writing to? Who is that one person? What I go through is I look for one of 3 different types of people. I look for a current client. I look for a past client, or I look for a current prospect. Okay? Then what I ask myself is, how and where are they consuming the content? So when they read this, what environment are they in externally and internally? So if I'm writing a YouTube script, they're likely going to be sitting down at their desktop. They're going to be, what's the word that I'm looking for? They're going to be like browsing YouTube and consuming content. So they're already in this sort of educational state. It might be that if I'm writing something for like a podcast, it might be that they're in the car and they're listening to the podcast, or they're walking and they're doing something, they're around the house, they're listening to the podcast, and then the ad comes in. So the copy is for that ad. So they're going to be in that environment. If it's something for Instagram, they're consuming from an entertainment standpoint, and they're going to be on their mobile, either at work or walking or sitting on the couch. Like, I'm thinking about the environment that they're in. Then I go through, what is it that I'm trying to say? Okay, so when I think about this, I want one big idea, and I want it to be said as simple as possible. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is going to change inside of each different piece of copy depending on what the intent is. So is it that I'm trying to highlight a problem? Is it that I'm trying to propose a solution? Is it that I'm trying to highlight a case study? Like, what is it that I'm trying to say here? What's my one big idea that I'm trying to get across? Okay. And then when I go into the how am I trying to say it, that's when I now go into the next principles. Okay. So after that, how I'm trying to say it is I want to make sure that I point instead of talking. So this is where I start to look for, what proof do I have? Okay, what testimonials? What stories? What case studies and client results? What results of other people? Because as we know, when we point to something, it has so much more power than when we just write and we try and talk. So the example here is that, like, Andrew posted a great GIF the other day of Mario, and instead of the mushroom coming out, it was like a Bitcoin. So let's say that I was trying to sell you on Bitcoin and why it's a great investment for yourself. I could write a massive long form sales letter that goes into all of the features of it, the benefits of it, all of the people that have invested in it, all the money that's been made, and it just has so much information. And I could try and influence you and convince you that way. Because what we're doing with copywriting is that someone has a current belief, and I want to stretch that belief to include a new belief about Bitcoin and why it's a great investment for them. So I could do all of those things, or I could just get an image of the graph of this is where Bitcoin started and this is where it now is. And I could just put that up and be like, well, have a look at this. That is going to have such a greater impact than anything else that I could write. So I'd start with that image, and then I would start to explain it and educate them about why that was possible. Because they're going to see that image and there's no falsifying it. Like, it's not a lie. It's proof. So then in the copy, my copy doesn't have to do as much because I'm just explaining why that was the case and how it can then be applied to their life. Another example here is, I'd love to use a specific context. So manure, let's say we're talking about surfing. You can talk about all of the different exercises that you can do and all of the ways that you can increase balance and increase paddle strength and increase agility and carving on the waves. Or you could just point to a client who 6 weeks ago was not even standing up on the board and just rolling over in the waves. And then 10 seconds later, you point to them now and you have a timestamp of the dates on there and you go, is this what you would like? So there's a visual representation of what's possible for the person, because that video, that image is going to say 1,000 words. And then it's like, if this is what you want, then these are the small things that you need to focus on. So the copy would go into the small things and expanding on what it is that we're pointing to. Are there any questions around that? Because it's a higher level concept. Can I explain this pointing, don't talk better?
I have a question here.
Yeah.
So when we are pointing to one thing, let's say it is a client result, should we have one client result or should we have multiple in a single email?
It depends on the context. If it's a single email, it would have more power of being like in the subject line, speaking to that single person, like how Nick learned to paint watercolor in 10 weeks and this is what he created. And then you'd explain that in the email and then in like a PS script and be like, and here's 100 other people. If you want to see them, then go here to see it. And you'd then drive them to a page that has everybody else on it. It comes back to that rule of one. We want the email to be about one thing. It's about this person's results. And then we say, and if you're interested in seeing these others, then you can go here. But the other thing that you can do is that 3 days later, you can send another email with somebody else. And that's where the volume of all of the testimonials and all of the client results come in.
Mm-hmm.
If it was a long form sales page, different story. We'd want to put them all up and just point.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on the environment and the context of what it is that we're writing.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Sorry. Do you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
I really like the principle of like showing the before and after. It's just a little challenge is to put together the image. I guess I've seen the big competitor about surfing, and the guy is really funny how he does it, and he does the week 1 and week 4.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny part is that there's a picture of him, which he's kind of the coach, week 1 with like a very bad posture, and then there's like a picture of him at week 4 having a good posture, and he's in the role of the client that paid the money to go from week 1 to week 4, and he uses that all the time on his trigger point for the clients to get them to buy the offer that he has on school too. So yeah, it's an image is always worth 1,000 words. Yeah. And I was thinking a lot about it, and now I just got to put together the picture that like high quality and saying it all. It would be better to have a client that like climb from there. So the start is always the hard part, because the testimonials I have, it's like from what I have in real, but it's not yet what I have in the school.
Yeah, and it's challenging. Like I love the way that he's done it, but it would be so much more powerful if it was the actual client instead of himself acting as the client.
Yeah.
Because there's a sense of belief that comes in, like, you don't actually look like that right now. Well, you didn't look like that 4 weeks ago, and now you look like this right now. Like, you've looked like that your whole life, if that makes sense. Like, you didn't have bad posture 4 weeks ago, and now you have great posture. You've always had great posture because as the coach, it's been the thing for you. So that's where having the actual person, the relatability that comes across, is exponentially better than yourself being like, here I am with bad posture, and 4 weeks later, look at what I look like. Like the level of believability and the impact that it has of you as the coach versus a client that you've helped is exponentially different.
Yeah.
So then the third that I go through is this rule of one. So I know who I'm writing to. I know what I'm trying to say. I now understand how I'm trying to say it, all of the different things that I can point to. So now I ask myself, what is the one big idea that I am conveying in this single piece of copy? What is the one compelling story that I can use to tell it? What is the one aroused emotion that I want to elicit? And only one emotion. The reason I say aroused is this isn't like a form of eroticism. An aroused state is a specific emotional state both on a positive and a negative spectrum, whereby they've done fundamental research to show that these are the specific states that people actually take action in. And when we start to look at ourselves, it's like, when have we ever taken action when we're very content and happy? So people will want to put people in like a happy state because it's a positive state, but that's not going to drive someone to take action. And when we're angry or we're super fearful, when have we actually ever taken action as well? It's a rarity. So the states that we want to get people in are one of like ambition, one of where they see a limitless potential, one of excitement. And on a negative spectrum, it's more frustration, it's agitation, it's irritation. Like, they're the states that we want them to be in, because it's like, oh my God, like I want to change this from a negative state. Like, I'm irritated, I'm agitated, I'm frustrated. Like, I've got to do something about this. They're the emotional states that people want to get out of. And on the positive side, that's where the positive marketing comes in, the hopium, in a sense, of, man, I'm really excited about this. Like, I can't wait to start. Or, man, this has me so fired up. Like, I'm super ambitious about achieving this. Like, let's go. So we think about how can we get people in that state, and what story specifically can we tell that's going to help them get into that state. Then what's the one desirable benefit that I'm going to focus on? Because I only want to focus on one to get them hyper focused on that one benefit, because it is the most impactful, most desirable benefit. It's the one of the highest value. And then what's the one simple call to action that I want them to have? The really cool thing that most people don't know about call to actions is that we have the physical call to action, like the click here, learn more, go here to find this. But the one that's not utilized is the psychological call to action. And that psychological call to action is the paradigm shift. It's the thinking of something in a new way. So this is where this call to action is so much more powerful, because you're providing value, you're creating a paradigm shift in the content, you're stretching the belief. You're showing them that there's a new opportunity or a new way of seeing things, and then you don't ask them to do anything. So the energetic match is that you're giving them so much, and all you're doing is you're asking them to see something in a different light. You're saying, like, how does this resonate with you? Or you know, go and spend time thinking about this idea, or how would you apply this in your life? How would you apply this in your business? How would you use this? That's the call to action. And that is going to create a massive disconnect and misalignment in regards to what you're giving them and how much they feel like they need to give back to you, because you're not asking them to do anything. So law of reciprocity starts to kick in, even though we don't know it. And that person starts to be like, this person is giving me so much and they're not asking for anything. But the whole time with this psychological call to action, you are just continuing to position yourself as the authority and the expert, and you're starting to get them into the state that they need to get in, where they go, this person's asking me all the right questions. So you're now being top of mind for them, so that when you do in the future come in with a physical call to action, they're going to be more likely to take it. So third principle, only ever one thing. One big idea, one compelling story, one aroused emotion, one desirable benefit, and one simple call to action, either physical or psychological. Once I have all of that, I just go, okay, now I want to write like I talk. And the easiest way that I can explain this is I write as if I'm speaking to the person. So lots of short, sharp sentences, some longer ones thrown in to create flow and to explain things. I'm going to emphasize certain words. I'm going to use the ... and different structures to create space so that it doesn't just feel like it's very monotone and there's a flow to it. And then the write like they talk is just using their language. Like it really is that simple. This is writing at a 5th grade level or less and just using the words that they use so that you're not trying to come across as some expert and it's a lecturing. You write like they talk, so it's more of a conversation so that they feel like they're involved with it when they're reading it. It's not like they're being told what to do. It's like they're being spoken with. And when you are focusing on one thing only, it's very easy to understand. If it's not easy to understand, the law that kicks in is a confused mind says no every single time. So that's why we need to write like they talk. Because if they don't understand and they become confused, they go, well, hang on a sec. Like, instead of being in flow and reading it, they're now starting to question things and being like, well, what does that mean? Like, now you've just lost them. It's a huge disconnect. So we want to write very, very, very simply. We want to be very clear, very direct, and we want to be very compelling. And we want to use words and phrases that those people use to help them feel understood, to help them understand because they know the terms, and to help create that connection of this person gets me, this person is like me, because they use the phrases I use, they use the terminology I use, they use the lingo that I use. So this person is like me. And then the final thing I'll then go and write is I'll ask myself, can I actually visualize this? So what I mean by this, I want to show you an example of something that I can't visualize. So give me 1 second. This is something that I can't visualize. Okay. This is someone who just sent me their funnel, and I'm going to go through and optimize it for them after this. But I look at this and I go, I can't visualize limitlessness. I can't visualize living my best life. I can't visualize best life. I can visualize trying to figure it out all alone. That's really good. But this unleashing inner radiance, I can't visualize it. I don't know what it means. So the copy here needs to come back to being very specific. And what is it actually trying to say? This again comes back to the pointing instead of talking. I can't visualize when the example here is, let's say that Mita, you have this woman that you think would be perfect for me if I was single. And you're like, Nick, you need to meet her. She's smart. She's attractive. She has great values. I'm sitting there being like, I can't visualize that, Mita. It's not specific enough for me. But if you were to then say, she reads books whenever she can, and she listens to podcasts when she exercises and when she's driving. She's, 5'10". She's a brunette. She has European heritage. I was going to have my birthday brunch last weekend, but she couldn't come to it because she had to take her sick nan to the doctor. Inside of that, you've told me that she's likely going to be intelligent, she has great values, and she's attractive. I can visualize those things as you're telling them to me because you've been specific. So that's the final thing. Once I've written the copy, I go back through and I start to say, can I visualize this? One of the things that I'll do as an extra step is I'll shoot an audio of myself reading the copy, and then I'll listen back with my eyes closed. Because that's what's happening for people when they're reading the copy. The words are forming an image and a video inside of the person's mind. They're seeing it. Like if I were to get you guys right now to close your eyes for me, close your eyes, and I'm going to say, don't think about a pink elephant. What are you thinking about right now? You're visualizing a pink elephant. I said, don't do it, but it's what came up for you. That's the power of words. That's what is happening at like a subconscious internal level. Whenever someone is reading, they're also playing out a movie and they're playing out a story and seeing images inside of their own mind. So we need to make sure that they can visualize it. I can't visualize a better way. I can't visualize a best life. Best life, I can visualize that I can go on holidays for 2 months with my wife and not have to worry about it. That's a best life. And that comes from knowing who I'm writing to and what's important to them and what the desirable benefit is for them. So you can start to see how all of these things begin to layer on themselves. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about any of the 6 principles that we went over and how they could apply themselves to yourselves?
Can you give an example? The cleaners have come making a lot of noise.
It's okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So, can you write a sentence which is the right way and the wrong way?
I need a context.
Write like I talk and write like they talk. So you can take the context of copywriting.
Okay. The easiest way for me to explain this, how do I write like I talk? It needs to be a visual representation. This is me writing like I'm talking. Okay, I'm going to read this as it's written. I'll get you guys to close your eyes and just feel the flow as if we're having a conversation. I used to create offers like the gurus and pros did. I just blindly modeled them. You know the ones I'm talking about. Those with long form sales pages and tons of value stacks. Like I thought that's what made people buy. But it turns out there's more to it than meets the eye. I was only seeing 1% of the entire puzzle. And the reason people bought it wasn't due to all of those bonuses and all of that value. It was the way people had been framed beforehand. It was the way the person's authority and expertise came across. And it was the person's branding that worked. Not to mention all the goodwill and the law of reciprocity. So if you come back and you have a look at how short and sharp this is, the bad copy is when you see big blocks of text. Like this here, and Mita, you'll have seen so many of Frank Kern's sales pages. Like, do you ever notice how they're super narrow and it's like 1 to 2 lines of text before the next break? That's writing like you talk because it creates flow. Bad copy, me writing like I don't talk, is big blocks of text. Like 3 sentences in 1 paragraph before the next. Like subconsciously, it just turns people off. We need it to flow. So everything that we say needs to become a new sentence, a new line. That's me writing like I talk. This is a new sentence. And now this is a new sentence. And now this is a new sentence as well. Yes, Andrew.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think if you recorded yourself talking normally and had it transcribed, it would read almost exactly the way your written stuff reads. Yep. And I can easily visualize Nita's writing, but there's some very decisive, very, very clear, very assertive language, not flowery, just very straightforward. Right? Mm-hmm. And like I can visualize it just having heard Nita speak 2 or 3 times now. And so it would be a fun exercise to actually just record ourselves in a natural way that we would describe something, and then transcribe it and see how it reads on paper or on digital paper.
Even does anyone know if Google Docs has text to translate? Tools. Here we go. Okay. Let's see what it does. Because I imagine that there's going to need to be some human interaction with it. This is a test. No? Okay. Oh, wow. This is a test. I'm waiting to see if this copy that the AI writes is good enough for me to convey this short, sharp, simple expression of copywriting. So see how it's added. I like how it's added the full stops. What I need to do is like play around here and just like these are the changes that I'd make.
It would probably be a great way to create a first draft.
Yeah.
Now this was super helpful of visualizing as you're speaking, visualizing the pictures that are being created from the words that you've used and the pacing of the words that you've used, because even just realizing that sometimes you actually do need to let people have some space to process what's just been said.
Yep.
And if it's part of a long paragraph or an ongoing, series of sentences, you take that away from them. Huh?
Yeah. And that's what I mean. When so many people think of copywriting, specifically they think of sales copy, which is the long form sales letters. And they look at it and they go, okay, this is what I need to do in order to write great copy. And they'll just model it. Like people are doing it with Hormozi's VSL at the moment. And it's like, you guys don't understand the reason that it actually works isn't the copy. It's the association that you have with the person who's written the VSL. It's the branding that they have. It's the goodwill that they already have. It's everything that you've seen of theirs or everything that you've ever experienced in your life before you get to that page. So you've already been pre-framed either by them or by somebody else like them to be in a specific state when you get to the page. The page is just there, like the copy is literally just there to convey one message and to get you to the point where you want to take action. So all of that long form, like 95% of it isn't essential. But because they are trying to drive millions of people to the page and they don't control the quality of the person going to it, it has to try and do a million different things. And that's what Hormozi says about the VSL. He's like, guys, we're going after an ocean of people here. So I need to do all of this at the start to try and touch on different people's problems to get them connected. It's not the actual words that he's saying and the structure that he's using. It works for them because of the context that they're in and all the work that he's done beforehand to position himself and everything that they've done to educate people on the school platform and how beneficial it is for them. So there's so much more at play than what it is that we're seeing. Brad, I noticed you had a hand up before.
Yeah, I was actually just going to ask if you could go through that website that you had pulled up with the brilliance or whatever it said on it and just kind of rewrite it the way you would do it.
Oh, so I'd need more context. Like I need to study the offer of this lady and what it is that she's actually bringing across. like this here needs to be more outcome focused. So whatever it is that she's promising, the promise needs to go here. Like what is actual limitlessness? Like what does that look like in a person's life? I need to know like who her ideal client is and what the promise is that she wants to make and the outcome. Like she focuses so much on these sort of abstract concepts of yoga, Ayurveda and that, which are really powerful, but people don't understand them. So by focusing on like the process, by focusing on the feature and the product, it takes away from the message, because this is where some confusion can come in. So I need more information in order to go and rewrite it. But the principles of what I'm thinking about is this needs to be very outcome promise focused. This here needs to be, it needs to start with painting a picture instead of being so direct. So this is very direct. We need it to be a little bit more indirect around this is what you're currently experiencing. So I like the tired of trying to figure it all out alone, but we need another 2 of those and have that there, and then come into more about, instead of this generic, you're in the right place, this was built by design, starting with this sort of stuff, but said better. So it then becomes about positioning and what people are focusing on at the start. So I want them to focus on all the outcomes that they're getting first, and then say you get them from doing this thing, instead of saying, and here's this thing and this is what it gives you. I want them to be focused on what they get first instead of like what it is that I have. So putting them first and then putting myself second.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Like, yeah, life of your dreams. Like, again, it needs to be so much more specific. So that person that we're writing to, what is in the life of their dreams? What are the 3 to 5 different things? Like when they wake up living their dream life, what does that actually look like with specificity? That's what needs to go in here. Yeah. Yep, Andrew.
Yeah, this reminds me, I was sharing a story with Brad earlier this week about a question that one of my good high school friends asked me maybe 15 years ago. And he said, what version of you do you want your girls to remember you as? And I thought, I was just thinking, that's some fucking good copywriting right there.
Yep.
Because that was clear, visualized, emotional. It hit all the pain points. And like the answer was very obvious, and it created action. I've never really thought about it from a copywriting perspective, but like even with that website, it's like limitless is really just playing on the idea that you're going to leave some potential on the table when you die if you don't do something different.
Yeah, and
like that's really what it means, right?
What you said just there could be the trigger.
Absolutely.
Like,
yeah.
You don't want to die with regrets and not having achieved everything that you want to achieve. And then with that framing, you then go into like 5 specific things that they want to achieve. You want to achieve this. You want to experience this. You want this. You want this. And the person's going, yeah. But I could only do that because I know who I'm talking to, what it is that I'm trying to say. So that's why that groundwork is so powerful. It's why, like when I originally wrote the VSL, it took me 10 days of just ideation before I actually wrote a word, because that's what I was working through, getting all of those dominoes lined up and those ducks in order. So that was the actual writing process. The typing it out was just the end state. It was the final form. The actual writing was the 10 days of thinking and jotting things down and connecting ideas and getting the structure. This part will go here, this part will go here. I didn't have the final form, but because I had the ideas in my head, when it came time to actually write it, it was so easy. It just wrote itself. So what I would love to walk you through now is, this is an old ad. The cost of the link click was high. They were paying about $3.82 for a link click. Everything else in the system was working fine. Great CPMs, great CTRs. The about page was converting at 18%. So I looked at it and I've gone, man, if we can drop this, like just halve it, what that does is it means that now 2 people get to the landing page for the price of 1. So we essentially double the amount of opt-ins for half the price. So if we're spending $20, let's just go easy math. If we're spending $40, we're getting like 10 link clicks from this. If we were to half this, we get 20 link clicks, which means we've doubled the amount of conversions on the back end just from dropping the cost of the link click. So I looked at this and I've gone, okay, it's quite long. It's quite text heavy. If I saw this as an ad, I would be put off because there's big blocks of text. Even though we've got a sentence, it's still a really big block of text to the eye. Okay. Looking at this call out, great job of saying who it is for. So creating that repel mechanism of if you're not an online fitness coach, you're obviously not going to read it. That's a little bit of magnetism and attraction. I look at this and I go, unlock the lead gen code. I go, what does that mean? Like there's a code. I can't visualize it. I said this to Brad in his description. You don't want to be cute and clever. You want to be clear. This is cute and clever. Our copy isn't here to win awards. It's here to convey the message. Okay. Hesitating to secure consistent leads. Beautiful. There's our problem. That's the one problem that we're going to focus on. But I don't understand the hesitating, like struggling to secure consistent leads, or are you getting inconsistent leads? So that to me is more clear if I were going to take that angle. Yep, I like the use of revolutionize just from a branding standpoint. And then I go through and I go, okay, what's the big promise here? That to me is the big thing of value. 200 guaranteed leads every month. Fantastic. Everything else then just becomes a little bit of, whitewash that gets explained on the about page. And that was the final thing that I did with this is I've gone, well, no reason people aren't clicking the link. And I want to see if you guys know why people wouldn't click the link. Looking at this, why do you think people didn't click the link to find out more?
Maybe because by the time they read the entire thing, their enthuse is going off, maybe. Or maybe
sorry?
It is too much for them to understand.
Not so much too much for them to understand. You're on the right track, though. If you got all of this information, do you need to click the link to find out more? They've given away Dave, not so much information overload, but they've given away everything that they needed to. So there's no need for someone to click the link to find out more because it's all right here for them. So if this isn't compelling enough to them or they're not interested, they're not going to click the link and see the video sales letter and see inside of the community. So the main change that I made to the ad was whenever we've got too high of a cost per link click, we want to get people to click the link. So I need to invoke curiosity. I need them to be interested to click the goddamn link to find out more information. So we need to get rid of all of this because this is what's in the VSL and on the about page. We want them to get to the about page to see this information. We don't want them to see it in the ad. If the ad was like, hit the button and purchase right now, and they actually purchased, beautiful. Because this is sales copy inside of an interest-based ad. So what I did was I went through and I rewrote it. And this is the ad here. And as you can see, we dropped the cost of the link click by over 3x. So we allowed the about page, the description and the VSL to do its job and convert 20% of people. And we were now getting 3 more people to go and view that thing, to go and view the asset. So the example here is that this was trying to convert people. Its role isn't to convert people. That's the role of the about page inside of school. The role of the ad is to get people to the page. So that was the mismatch here. So when I went through and I rewrote it, in the headline, I started with the big value, the big promise, 200 plus qualified leads every month. It's right there for them to see. We're not looking at free for online fitness coaches. We're hitting them with this is the thing that you want. It's right there in front of you. We go straight into the pain, putting it there. Are you struggling to grow your online fitness business? Yes, you'll read. If not, it's not for you. Most online coaches experience this thing, and this thing. So that's the power of 3. They have inconsistent leads. They're creating content that doesn't convert, and they're getting leads that they don't convert into clients. Very, very simple now, very clear. The solution is this. Okay? Positioning, industry leading, proven strategies and systems, coaches signing 50 plus clients in 45 days or less. Here's some proof. Act now. Access is free. Here's the link. Would you be more inclined to click that to read more and find out more compared to the other? So that's why the link click cost dropped. Because this is just very simple. It's all curiosity and interest based on what the online coach wants and what they're currently experiencing. Andrew, hand.
Sorry if I missed this, but what platform was that ad being run off of?
Meta.
Meta. Okay, thank you.
So Facebook and Instagram. Mita?
Yeah, so I have an Instagram ad. And I want to show you this because I want to check if my language is not good.
Please go ahead and share your screen.
So this is the ad. So this is what I'm doing. Like you once said that, show them the result. So I'm showing them the result. This is Anusha's very first watercolor painting. This is Jayaprada's first watercolor painting. Diya's, Avanti's, and these are some more. And then I'm saying that, do you want to create big size, sellable quality watercolor paintings and become a watercolor professional in just 6 months? And click the link to book a free personalized one-on-one strategy planning session to become a watercolor professional, right?
Yep.
Okay. So do you see any problem here?
No, the ad is going to speak to a small section of the market because the call to action is booking a strategy session. So it just means that the market size is going to be smaller on people who are ready to take action right now. If the action was, download this free course or whatever to teach you, it'd be a bigger market. The thing that I look at here is the copy on the right and starting with the are you a doctor, lawyer, engineer, or working professional? Because you're focused on the outcome in these images and the promises of what's happening, that needs to start with that outcome or promise.
So what should I write here? Because
it would be
sometimes why I'm right. I just want to tell you what is the problem. So earlier I was not putting this sentence and I was getting people who earn nothing, who are like, can't even speak in English and who just like even 5-year-old kids used to click on that. So then I started writing, are you doctor, lawyer, engineer, or working professional dreaming about making watercolor as your parallel career? So I want those people who already are a working professional and now they want to also become a watercolor professional because that was their dream.
Yep.
Means
So
strong intent.
I love it. I just don't love it there. I would include it in a different section.
Okay.
That's what I would do here.
Okay.
I would start more with the promise of, do you want to be able to, paint watercolors like this inside of the next X time frame? Or imagine being able to paint a watercolor of this quality inside of this time frame. And then the next one is, I help doctors, lawyers, engineers, and working professionals paint watercolors just like this. If you're curious about how you can start, or you're seeking faster results and experience and expert guidance, I can help. I specialize in teaching doctors, lawyers, engineers, and working professionals how to master watercolors. So you'd still have that call out in the copy. It's just not the hook.
Okay, so I should not ask for the pain. Like, these are some pain related questions.
Yeah, you can. Like, I was just flowing there. If we sat down to actually do this, you'd put pains in there. I'm just thinking about the process now and trying to explain why I'd start differently than, are you a doctor, lawyer, engineer, or working professional?
So I will remove this part and put it somewhere else. But what should be the starting sentence?
It's where it's something along the lines of the promise or the outcome of, because you've got the images, so the hook needs to align with the images. Okay. So imagine painting something this good as your very first watercolor painting in less than X time frame. Or do you want your first watercolor painting to look this good even if you've never picked up a brush before? Because the hook needs to align with the images.
Okay.
That's what will get their attention. And then when you introduce the, are you a doctor, lawyer, that's your repel mechanism of you saying, this is who I help. So if people opt in and they're not that not that sort of person, well, that's on them. Like, you've got the repel mechanisms in there. People are still, who aren't those people, are still going to take action because that's just human nature. Some people just blindly won't see it. But
so this is what I understood. What I understood is the hook should match with the images.
Correct.
I was thinking that the images is the hook.
No, there needs to be alignment between the two.
Okay, so first I will start with, is this the kind of result that you want, even if you have never painted before?
Yep.
And is your goal to become a watercolor professional?
Yep.
I help so-and-so people, so-and-so type of people to get the result in so much of time.
Yep.
Do you want this result? Click the link below to book a free strategy planning session. Is that okay?
Yeah, and in there, I would add those two problem sections in there.
1 second, somebody is at the door. Just 1 second.
Yeah, you're right. So I'll just explain this while Mita's away, and I'll explain it when she gets back as well, while it's front of mind. The image is the pattern interrupt. It's not the hook. The image is the thing that gets the attention. The hook needs to align with the image, because the image is like, okay, I've stopped, now what? So that first piece of copy is the hook, which needs to align with the image and start the cascade of someone reading. So if there's a disconnect from it,
thank you,
then again, the confused mind is going to come in and be like, no. Okay, does that make sense for you guys that are here with us? If it doesn't, just unmute yourself and ask the question. But yeah, the image is a pattern interrupt. That's all that it's there to do. Stop someone from scrolling. And then the hook needs to align with the image to get someone to start reading. Okay, so Mita, as I just explained to the guys, the image isn't the hook. The image is the pattern interrupt. The image is the thing that gets them to stop scrolling. The hook, like the first line, is the hook, which needs to align with the image because the images stop me from scrolling. So now the first thing that I read needs to align with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I'll show you next with this YouTube script, like I'm going to write a hook real quick. I'll show you the process through that, because it, again, is a universal law where the thumbnail on YouTube is the image here, which is the pattern interrupt. The title on YouTube is the hook here, the first line. And then the hook that I express in the actual video, like you think about what someone has to go through before they hear those words. They've seen the thumbnail, which has stopped them. They've read the title, which has given them an expectation of what they're going to get. So the first thing that I say needs to align with those things and deliver on them. So it's where, I guess you could say, 7 universal laws of copywriting. The final one is alignment. There has to be alignment between everything. Because if there's not alignment, what happens is that confused mind comes in. So when we take a broader ecosystem perspective and we think about systems as a whole, the ad needs to align with the landing page, which needs to align with the sales page, which needs to align with the person's experience when they come in. The language needs to be consistent across all of them. If the ad promises one thing, but then the landing page doesn't deliver on the promise, or talks about something different, or introduces a new idea, the person's going to be like, what the hell is this on about? If you offer a freebie, but then your upsell is disconnected from it, like if you offer a lead magnet, but then your community isn't aligned with the lead magnet and it promises something different, people are going to go, but I opted in for this promise and now you're trying to tell me about this? Like, what's going on here? I'm a little bit confused. There's no flow to the entire experience and process.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the structure on how I write YouTube hooks and how I go about doing titles. So I start with the idea. This is a video that I'm shooting after this. So my idea is how people can identify and solve any business problem that they have and have a solution for it within 2 minutes. Okay, it's a pretty powerful idea. It's a promise that I now need to deliver on. So what I would do is my hook structure is always this. So in this video, I'm going to ABC, then I've, and this is where the proof then comes in, and then this is or these are. So this will take me about 10 seconds to read. But if the idea is that, so I would go with, in this video, I'm going to show you how you can identify and solve any business problem that you have in just 2 minutes and have a solution for it. I have helped tens of businesses scale from 50K a month to 100K a week just from doing this process. And these are the, I think there's 5 steps or whatever. I'd then go into, these are the 5 steps and this is step number 1. And I'd be straight into it. So then the thumbnail, which I have a YouTube expert do, he would look at it and create a thumbnail based on that hook that I've done and write a thumbnail that has 3 to 6 words in it. And when I go to do titles, I'd come across here to YouTube. I go to like the podcast section or, you know, anything that's more educational focused. And I use this tool called vidIQ. And it shows me what outliers are. So this little 12x means that this is outperforming others. There's some ugly mofo there. I don't know how he's popped up. This is a 1x. This is a 38x. 38 views per hour. So that's a big one. So what that's telling me is that this title is working. Okay, this title here, which is 8.3x outperforming other people, is working. This one, oh, that's basketball related, so it will be. This one here is working. So what I can do with this is I can go remix, and it's going to come up with that structure, but just different ideas. So I could look at these and I could go, oh, I want to use this sort of title structure, and I'd bring it back over to my document and I'd paste it in here, and then I'd just tweak it so that it fits what my idea is. And then I'd come back to YouTube and I'd have a look for another one. 22x. Okay, beautiful. So this how to build a blank in blank works. 91x. Again, it's a how to blank for blank and blank. So that's the structure. That's what I'd go through, and then I'd just use that framework and create a title for myself to put in here. Okay, Meeta, you have a question?
Yeah. So when I don't know if this question is even worth asking. So you said that you helped so many people improve their business. Let's say a person is watching your video. Don't you think that that person will have that question? How many problems have you identified in your own business? How you rectified them, and how much are you earning at present to justify what you're saying? Like, why I'm asking this question, because if I say this, something similar, then my people may ask me that, Meeta, so how much are you earning? How can you justify what you are saying is right?
Yeah, cool. So if someone put that in the comments, I'd go, here is Georgia Markowski, who runs the business Positive Property. And when they came to us, they were stuck at 50K a month and they couldn't do anything to get out of it. What we identified was that they were trying to continue to throw ad spend to get cheaper leads. But what was happening was that their show up rate was shit. They were only getting 15% of people to show up to their sales calls. So by increasing the people who showed up to their sales calls to 60% over 3 months, think about that. That's a 4 times increase of people that showed up, and they sell a $15,000 package. If they're selling at 60% close rate, which they were, and they're getting 4 more people to show up out of every lead that they get in, like, you think about the numbers that happen there, and that's how they got from 50K a month to 100K a week consistently.
I still have a question related to this.
Yeah.
See, I can point out problem in other person's business because we are not emotionally related to it. We can see it from far. Yeah. But when it comes to pointing mistakes in your own business, that is something difficult. Don't you think so?
No, because the process that I teach in this is looking at the data. So the reason that you find it difficult right now is you don't know what data to look at and what data matters for yourself. That's where I come in, because I know the data that you need to look at. And as you've expressed that, it's something that I've seen over the last week where you're looking at different things and you're doing a lot of different things. You just wrote down that it's conversions inside of traffic and conversions. That's the thing that you want to 10x. But you were talking about the other day about how can I get more people engaged. So to me, that's 2 different problems that you're focusing on and trying to solve. So you don't actually know what the actual problem is that's actually the leverage point, the key leverage point for yourself. And that's because you're not looking at the data. That's why when you asked the other day about the engagement, and I said, well, show me the metrics, and we had a look that only 30% of people were engaged and actively logging into school, it's like, well, there's no point in trying to get the other people to engage because there's 70% of people who aren't even logging into school. So it'd be better to spend your time on those 30%, get new people in and get them engaged, than trying to reactivate people who aren't even logging into school. So focusing time there will be better spent than focusing time elsewhere. And once that problem's solved and we get people in and we get them engaged, now how can we get them on calls and how can we convert them across? It's only ever one thing at a time.
What I want you to understand here means my question is, who is giving that video matters a lot, right? Like, let's say
100%.
Leila Hermosi is making $100 million a year. And then she's saying that you can solve any business problem in 2 minutes, or you can at least figure out any business problem in 2 minutes, right? Because first of all, that sentence itself is very counterintuitive. For big businesses, it doesn't take 2 minutes. It takes quite some time to identify, because you need to collect the data. Then you need to process the data.
Beautiful. Yeah, if I may. So let's now come back up to here. I'm not shooting this for a big multi-billion-dollar business who won't be able to solve their problem in 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
This is where the context matters. So this is where who am I shooting this video for matters. This video is attracting a specific type of person. I'm doing it for one person. So I hear and I understand and I agree with your questions, but with the context of it, a big business person may watch it and be like, I don't agree with that. Cool, off you go. Like, it's not made for you. This video isn't inside the context of you run a multi-million-dollar business. It's going to take longer. It'd likely take 30 days because there's a lot of data to sift through. There's a lot of different moving pieces. But for someone who's a solopreneur, or they're running a 1 or 2 person business, they can literally, when they have the data, they can solve that problem and know what to do in less than 2 minutes. But they need to know what data to look at. And they don't know that, and that's what I show them and walk them through in the video. Does that make sense? Does that clear things?
Maybe my question is not relevant, because I feel that if your video is for me, I don't know even how to collect the data.
Yeah, and that's where another video would come in if that's a problem that obviously we've identified. So thank you for that. So another video would be, here's how to know what data actually matters for your business if you're trying to get more traffic or if you're trying to convert people. So again, this video is trying to do one thing. And if you look at it and you go, I don't even know what data, you might comment that and be like, but how do I know what data to focus on? And I go, cool. There's another problem, and I can now go shoot a video to solve that problem. And this is why content's so great. Like, if you look at a lot of the content that I put up in school, questions like that get asked. So I could do this video as a post and someone might comment and be like, this was fantastic. How do I identify the data that I need to focus on? And I'd then explain it in a comment and I'd help them, because the content's done its job to start the engagement and to start the connection. I'm getting feedback on this was great. Now, what about this? The people who it's for are being magnetized to it and are asking questions or engaging with it.
Okay.
So because the video is only trying to do one thing, or the piece of copy is only trying to do one thing, the people that are drawn to it, if they have questions or something else, it's going to expel that out of them, which is going to be fantastic for the person who creates the content, because the content's trying to do one thing only and not try and do everything.
Got it.
I saw... Could we do a review of the Podcast Nerds About page? Yes, we can. Where do I find it? It'll be under Brad. Okay, actually, that's not the best example because we optimize this. So, this is an example. So this is what Brad had as the About page for his school group Podcast Nerds. And it starts out great. Love podcasts. That's a very, very strong call out of who it's for. This join the nerds and get inside access. I look at it and I go, inside access to what? Inside access to who? And then it just goes straight in here. So it's not like get inside access to and then a colon like this here. And even if it did that, it's like get inside access to behind the scenes access. I'd be like, well, that's confusing. But I really like the value that's here, behind the scenes access, share your feedback, be a part of a community. We've got inside access twice. So I'd look at it being like, how can we change that up so that it says the same thing, but just in a different way? Again, great value, potentially change the structure of what comes first. Become a part of the nerds team. Team makes it seem like you'd be on like you're a part of the company sort of thing. I'd more go family, community. Enjoy early access, exclusive content, and the chance to help shape the podcast you love. So there's something about that sentence that I'd want to change. And then this final part's great. So what I did when I went through here, as you can see, optimize the first line, the hook, because that get inside access, it does nothing. And I got the vibe that he wanted to be playful with it. So I just confirmed that. And then I wrote this as an optimization. So the hook, instead of that love podcasts, join the nerds, love podcasts and love nerding out on them, us too. Okay. And now instead of the get inside access, imagine if you could. Okay. So that imagine. And now we start to go into these. So imagine if you could get first listen of the podcast you love before the rest of the world. Imagine if you could shape shows you listen to by providing feedback to hosts. Imagine if you could have a voice in the podcast world. So we're saying the things that he says here just in a different, simpler, more direct way. Okay? Instead of this inside is access to, as a nerds member, you get. We're saying the same thing, just a different way. And now instead of going with like just these people do this, it's just like a generic, they give a name to what the value is. I said you get to connect with your favorite hosts. That's incredibly valuable. You get early access to episodes, and this should have been so your ears, because your eyes can't hear. Early access so your ears can hear them before they actually go live. That's valuable. You get exclusive nerds content. I could have gone here. You get to go behind the mic with exclusive nerds content and host insights. That would be better there. Now that I'm saying this out loud. So having this start with go behind the mic. You get to give your opinion to improve your favorite shows. And you get featured in group promos. Join now, become a part of the Nerds fam. And this was the change that I made. So, and the chance to help shape the podcast you love, I just removed and the chance to. So that subtraction made it so much more powerful because you enjoy early access, you get exclusive content, and you help shape. You don't get a chance to, you actually are doing that, being part of the community. Okay. Any questions
Nick,
around that? Yeah.
Nick, would you mind looking at the live one? Because we took your optimization and I think we tweaked it a little bit just because to narrow the scope of what was actually being promised.
100% I will. Okay, love this. This is the one. I think I had a discussion with Brad about it in the comments where this is trying to do two things at once. where you'd want to break them up so that they're more powerful. Imagine if you could discover up and coming shows like without we want them to visualize that they can discover up and coming shows like really easily, like before the rest of the world again. Like I'd even here be like, get first listen to a podcast you love, discover up and coming shows before the rest of the world. People go, oh, like I could hear about it before everybody else does. It's like that music band analogy. Like you get to listen to them when they first came up before they went famous. And then this have a voice, you know. I just think that this needs to be its own one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And then, yeah, this is beautiful. I love this trusted resource to established host. That's beautiful. That's very, very powerful. Specific feedbacks that host can immediately. That's the visualizing that you're having a voice. That's the representation of it there. Merch is beautiful. Get discounted access. Yep. And that's a great pre-frame for what's to come as an upsell. So I'd remove this and put it discover up and coming shows before the rest of the world, and then have a voice in making your favorite podcasts, or just have a voice. Well, the have a voice is the same as this one here.
Yeah. No, I can see how we can split those into two playing on ego statements.
Yeah, make these one.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that,
I love the visualization of like seeing a band before they became famous. Like it's that same idea. Yeah.
Yeah,
very cool.
you became a Nirvana fan when they were still grunge in Seattle before they went global.
Yeah.
That's the vibe. That's the feel.
Awesome. Thank you.
Pleasure. Any other questions or that? Otherwise, we're going to wrap this up. Beautiful. Awesome. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for being
Likewise,
here with
Nick.
us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and if you have ideas on what you would like next week for the masterclass, then let me know, because otherwise I'm just going to come up with ideas that may not be impactful. Or
are we going to get access to this document that you created?
I'm going to give it. I was planning to give it to everyone except you. Is that okay?
I will take it from Andrew.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna figure out a way on Google Docs to be like, ban this email. Yeah, everyone. So this will go up in the classroom. The recording, so all the Fireflies AI notes will be there, as well as the Google Doc. Okay.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, I think you proved that you actually do have there is a method to the madness. So thank you for teaching today.
Yeah, it's Thank you for drawing it out of me. I still look at it and I go, I don't see it as like a method or a system. Like it's hard for me to teach it to people, but I can be like, here's sort of the playbook, go run with it. Because as I said, for me, copy so much more than, hey, here's PASPA. Like, yeah, you need to write a headline. Just make it promise focused or outcome focused, or if you're focusing on a more immature segment of the market, make it like talk about the problem. And then just be like, can you actually visualize what you're trying to say? Is it simple? Is it clear? No, you're trying to be too cute. Change it. Make it simple. Like that's the process that I go through more than use a power word. Like, fuck that.
I will change the copy of that ad and then I will send it to you. It means I upload it.
Yeah, put it up as a comment and we'll work through it together.
Sure.
Beautiful. All right, guys. Dave, thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much.
Andrew, Mita, lovely to see you guys.
Bye.
Have a great day.